is the Redeemer.
Well, good morning. This is Pan-African Television. We are live from our studios in Abelengbe. Today is a Saturday. We welcome you to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Radio on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. We are also live on many other affiliate stations across the country. This morning, I start on this note. This is a statement issued by the President himself, John Dramani Mahama, and it's headed on the occasion of 3 days of national mourning in honor of Her Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo Ajimaro, former First Lady of the Republic of Ghana. And it says, whereas the Republic of Ghana has lost one of its distinguished daughters, Her Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo Ajimaro, former First Lady of the Republic, whose passing has occasioned profound sorrow across our nation. And whereas Mrs. Ajimaro devoted her life to the service of our country with distinction, championing causes of women's empowerment, child welfare, and social justice, and leaving an enduring legacy of courage, compassion, and patriotism. Now, therefore, I, John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, by the powers vested in me under the Constitution of the Republic and in recognition of her exemplary service to the nation and humanity, do hereby declare, 1. That the period from Friday 24th October 2025 to Sunday 26th October 2025 shall be observed throughout the Republic as a period of national mourning in honor of the late Nana Akufo-Addo Ajimaro. That during this period all national flags shall be flown at half-mast at all public buildings, institutions, diplomatic missions, and government establishments throughout the country and abroad. That citizens are encouraged to reflect upon her life of selfless service, dedication to Ghana's progress, and her unwavering advocacy for women and children. 4. That the government of Ghana extends its deepest condolences to her family, her children, and all who mourn this irreplaceable loss. Let this declaration stand as a mark of our nation's gratitude and respect for her exceptional contribution to Ghana's development and democratic journey. May her noble soul rest in perfect peace. Given under my hand and the seal of the Republic at Jubilee House, Accra, that was yesterday, to 24th day of October 2025. That's 2025. That's a presidential declaration. So 3 days mourning for former First Lady Nana Akufo-Addo Ajimaro started yesterday, will end tomorrow. Our condolences go out to the family, especially her children and the larger family alike. Okay. Now, this morning, we are discussing, because it's been a week that corruption has been really talked about, especially from the corridors of power. President met Auditor General, the Attorney General, met the Chief Justice to talk about what do we do with Auditor General's reports. That was the very first thing that happened, and there were conclusions about proper Auditor General and Attorney General. And then, of course, specialized courts are supposed to be set up for the purpose of dealing with Auditor General reports. Then there was the matter of the Deputy Attorney General granting an interview to a television station and indicating that the only drawback, they've been trying to start the process of repatriating former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta into the country. But they have been delayed by the special prosecutor. They are the ones who made the request through the Chief of Staff to them. But they have asked for a docket to be provided to them, the docket based on which they have issued the Interpol red alert or red notice. And they are delaying providing that docket. The special prosecutor's excuse is that we have the dockets, but we did some recent seizures and searches, and we are adding the information we got into the docket. We'll finalize it before sending to the Attorney General. The Attorney General insists we want the docket in its current shape. So that issue came up, and then there was, of course, the oral, an update on the cases that were being followed. We know the National Cathedral, a new audit to be conducted. We also know that they are pursuing a case that involves JA Plant Pool. And of course, there was the matter of what they call the Rambo in the Jungle. That involves Abdul Hanan, who headed Buffer Stock. Then there was the Attorney General also addressed the matter of people saying oral is too slow paced. He says, give him time. It takes time, it takes resources to prosecute, to deal with matters such as that. They will enter in our very second discussion into the new patriotic party. This week, President Nana Akufo-Addo met all the presidential aspirants of the new patriotic party. Of course, the campaign has intensified, and well, they all came out with smiles. Very interesting thought by Uncle Kwesi on exactly how they felt. I saw that somewhere else. And of course, they will conclude with the acting CJ, who is now scheduled with Parliament now in session, scheduled to appear before the appointments committee. So those are the three issues we'll be discussing this morning on the Manner of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. I am Senna Nomu. Join us in the studio today for this discussion, of course, as always. Comrade Kwesi Praji, the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. And of course, there's a former host of the show. He is now Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhaji Alasan Saidu Suhini. This week I was reminded of him. I haven't told him why, but when we close, I'll tell him. Good morning to you. It's nice to see you this morning.
Good morning, sir.
And sitting right, my immediate right is Nino Hansen Norton, who is a former Member of Parliament for
Tema Central.
Tema Central, yes. Good morning to you. I get to see you once again. And of course, I don't know if I've hosted and I also have on the show before.
No, this is my first time on the show.
This is your, okay.
I like it. This is my first time.
Well, Solo tells me all of you are in an acting capacity, so an acting Deputy General Secretary of the
Interim. I prefer acting there as a need to me be as I know.
Interim Deputy He's also a political assistant, of course, to Mr. Alan Kojo-Johnson. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
Blood in yellow.
Yes.
That's not what you
It's not a fever. It's a movement.
It's a movement. Well, let's start off the discussion today. Of course, your views are very important to us. If you're joining us on Facebook, do share your comments with us. Of course, I have WhatsApp. I have it here. So if you send a message by WhatsApp, I'll read it out as we go along in the show. Let's start with the matters on oral and, of course, the Office of Special Prosecutor, among others. We'll start with Honorable Alasan Sweeney this morning.
Kwesi, good morning to my other colleague panelists on the show and to our very distinguished viewers. Good morning. To the very good people of the Tamale North constituency, I send you my very grateful greetings. And let me start, Senna, by extending heartfelt condolences to the family of Mrs. Rollins, Nana Konedu Ajiman Rollins, the daughter, Dr. Zanato Rollins, who is a colleague in Parliament, a third-term member of Parliament like myself. We entered Parliament together. I can imagine, I can only imagine what she and her siblings may be going through now, and I pray that the good Lord will grant them the serenity of mind and the presence of mind to accept the ways of God. And we all stand in solidarity in mourning with them as a nation, as directed by His Excellency the President. It is not a secret that the party that I belong to was significantly influenced by Mrs. Konedu Ajiman Rollins in its formative, years. She can debatably be described as the mother of the NDC, who birthed the party alongside the other great comrades that we know. And we forever remain grateful for the sacrifices that she and the husband made to establish the NDC as a solid tradition that has grown to win and lose elections in this country in the last couple of decades, and to also champion development in various parts of the country. She stands out as one of those who led the charge for women empowerment in this country. Controversial as it may be, the history of women empowerment in this country will be incomplete without the role that she played. And we forever will cherish and celebrate that about her. And we pray that her Lord would accept her and forgive her for her trespasses, as he will forgive all of us for our trespasses as well. But the NDC remains very grateful for the role that she played. It doesn't matter that in her later years she had some disagreements with the party. We continue to hold in high esteem the contributions that she made to bring the party, the NDC, this far, and we console the family and condole with them at the same time. Now, Senna, the issue of corruption and the need for the NDC to prioritize its fight is not only politically expedient, but I will say it's democratically expedient as well. I said before the last general election that the life of our democracy was going to depend on how, the NDC government fought corruption after the victory that was quite obvious even before the elections. And I still stand by it, because so many of our population are beginning to lose confidence in the democratic experiment, especially because of how they see political players fleece the nation and get away with it. It is therefore, or it wasn't surprising to me when during the swearing in of His Excellency President Mahama, one of the leaders from Africa who drew the loudest applause was the leader of Burkina Faso, who had just successfully overthrown a democratically elected government and was seen to be championing anti-corruption. That, for me, was re-echoing the expectations of the teeming numbers of people who queued to vote for the NDC to win the last general election. Again, researchers will tell you that of all the promises that NDC made prior to the 2024 general election, the one that was among the most popular promises accepted by people of all, backgrounds was the issue of oral and the pledge to, carry out an operation that will retrieve all loot. It was popular then, it's still very popular. And so the life of our democracy, to a very large extent, depend on how we send a signal to majority of our people that this government is different. This government is not only committed to not stealing their resources, but is actually also committed to retrieving resources that have already been stolen. It is one major way of, instilling confidence once again in our democracy and making people believe that even without a coup, even without a military leader, people who engage in corruption can be punished. It is the expectation of many people, and we have to live up to that expectation. It is in the light of that expectation that I am excited about how the Attorney General has approached his work so far. Some have criticized his approach, but I wonder on what basis they do so. Because, Senna, a prosecutor is allowed and permitted, in my view, to state his convictions on why he is engaging in a prosecution. I don't think that any prosecutor with an iota of doubt about a case will continue to press on. So before charges are filed against a person by a prosecutor, the prosecutor may have been absolutely convinced about a wrongdoing. Otherwise, there's no need to, bring a charge against anyone. Because you know that the burden of proof is on you, the prosecutor, as far as our laws are concerned. And so, unless you want to engage in frivolity, there's no point in bringing up charges against somebody when you have some doubt about the charges you are bringing. And so just as a defense attorney has the right to address the media and state reasons why he thinks his client is innocent and give convincing or things that he thinks are convincing enough to defend the client, a prosecutor is also entitled, in my view, to strongly state his position on why he is bringing charge A or B against a defendant. I think it is in that context that we must view what the Attorney General is doing. The Attorney General is a prosecutor, and he is convinced beyond reasonable doubt that he has a case against the people that he has named and has charged. And so it is for him to state clearly and emphatically why he is going to court. It is up to the judiciary to agree with him or not. If the judiciary disagree with him, it is now for us to begin to wonder if our Attorney General is up to the task or not, and if his analysis of the situations are good or not. It is now at that point that we will assess the integrity, will assess the capacity and the intellectual capacity and resource of the Attorney General. But at this stage, for him to have doubts about charges, then it already gives you an indication that he may not get a successful prosecution. So he ought to be very convinced that the charges are solid. And so I do not understand why people who are concerned about the defense cannot also, if they are counsels to the defense, mount the media platform, because it is free. No one owns the media. They can also design their own platform, call the media, and also give us reasons why they are innocent. And then at the end of the day, the justices of the courts will agree with either the prosecution or the defense team. It is as simple as that. But what is done for me is not novel, because in other jurisdictions it is clear that prosecutors update their audience on cases that they are prosecuting. It is normal practice. Tune on to CNN, tune to BBC. You will hear prosecutors on several cases updating citizens and their audience on the state of the case and why they are going to court. It is very, very normal. Today, I'm sure if you watch CNN from morning to evening, you will find one attorney or the other addressing the media on one case or the other and stating reasons why he is in court or she is in court. It is very, very normal, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. After all, Senator, let's not forget that our Constitution says that justice is done in the name of the people. And so if the Attorney General is leading that justice that the people are seeking, how better can he carry the people along to be assured that this justice that he is seeking is actually going to be in their name? How better can he do that? So I think that the Attorney General must continue with what he is doing, but he must also put a solid team in place to not only convince us in the media, but to also convince the justices in the court, so that successful prosecutions can be attained. And that, like I said earlier, will go a long way to engender more confidence in not only our judiciary, but also in our democracy. I was a bit disappointed when the issue of Ken Ofori-Atta came up and the OSP responded that the docket was ready and they were yet to actually furnish the Attorney General's department with the information that it requested to facilitate the extradition of the former finance minister. I was a bit disappointed in the conduct of the OSP at that point. But generally, I have never really been very confident in the office. I have always had my reservations. From the formation of the office, I've always had my reservations about, what the office was going to add really to the fight against corruption. I am for the argument that there's a need for us to look at separating the Attorney General's office from the Minister of Justice, just so that we can give more bite to the fight against corruption, especially when it involves even sitting, government officials. But I didn't think that, I was hoping that the Office of Special Prosecutor will play that role. But from the way it was formed, my hope was immediately even dashed at that point. I didn't see the office really playing that role of, being that independent to complement the prosecutions of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General in the fight against corruption. And so I sometimes feel indifferent when issues about the OSP come up. But on this particular case of the extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta, I was disappointed that the OSP office didn't live up to the expectation of the Attorney General in facilitating his extradition, because the former finance minister is a prime person of interest as far as the issues of corruption that took place in the last 8 years is concerned. He's a prime person of interest. And so issues related to him should not be frivolous. And I thought that the splashing of the headlines about he being a wanted person would have also been followed up with very, immediate steps to ensure that he was brought back home to face justice. And so for the conversation to seem to suggest that some alacrity was not attached to the processes that will enable his extradition felt disappointing for me. But by and large, I want to once again encourage the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine and his team, to continue with what they are doing and to put their house in order well, so that they can actually secure successful prosecutions for us. Because the life, like I started with in the beginning, of our democracy depends on the successful prosecutions and the success of oral in general. Many people will begin to have more confidence in our democracy when they begin to see that people who engage in corrupt practices are actually being held responsible and punished even under a democracy. Otherwise, you find people tempted to think that issues of corruption can only be squarely dealt with better under a military regime. And we do not want to experiment with that again. I mean, some of the cases, when they are narrated, and the documents are presented, they are so mind-boggling. And, Senna, sometimes when I was listening to Attorney General the other day, I was like, okay, so I understand why sometimes people have certain expectations of, some of us in the positions that we are in. Expectations that you find weird. But when you listen to what others are doing with their positions, the amounts of monies they are transferring from place to place, and using to purchase assets. I mean, sometimes you are somewhere and somebody is selling some property to you, and you are wondering why the person is quoting those prices and thinking you can engage in even, you know, what do you call it? You can engage in a purchase conversation. You know, so you begin to understand why people have certain expectations of us politicians in general. When you begin to hear some of these things, because there are some things that you find weird. How is somebody able to amass that level of wealth within that short possible time, and you can't just wrap your head around it? And that is why there's a need. That's why there's a need for, you know, these prosecutions to serve as a warning to all of us, you know, in public office, to know that, look, there is always a day of accountability. It is important that these prosecutions succeed to serve a warning to all those who are currently occupying public office. My disappointment, Senna, my greatest disappointment in all of this is that so far, the people that the Attorney General have put out there who are engaged in multi-million-dollar, you know, illegal transactions are all people that I am older than. It's my greatest disappointment. They are all people I am older than. And I'm asking myself, why have we over the years, you know, requested for opportunities for young people? And yet when these young people, when these opportunities are extended to us, we engage in these sort of things that are reported about. It just, in my view, you know, defeats that call for young people to be given the opportunity because they have fresh blood, they have new ideas to transform the country. These are not the ideas that transform nations. And so for me, in all of the conversation, my biggest disappointment is the fact that young people with, you know, beautiful opportunities have engaged in such shameful acts as being reported. And it is my hope that the Attorney General will be able to retrieve some of these resources and not only secure successful prosecutions that will lead to some jail sentences.
Thank you very much. Of course, we are talking about
The fight against corruption, specifically oral OSP. Let me put on record that Abdul Hanan has actually stated that the things being said are factually.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, the prosecution must be tolerated to state his case. The defense must also be tolerated to state his defense. But let the judges determine who is right, and then the citizens will pick the pieces from there.
Okay. And I'll come to you, Ni, shortly. But before that, let me do just a couple of messages that we're getting on Facebook. This Prince Duzo, who says, "Rumble in the jungle, God really save Ghanaians. Let us all continue to pray that every generation will see and experience John Dramani Mahama as leader. That is Prince who sent that. That's Agumas Sebastian, who says the OSP does not appear as someone that is serious enough for this task. Government can do better on this Kenofoyata matter. Why does it appear as if government is not interested in dealing decisively on these allegations of misconduct by some past government officials?" There's Susan Apanyo, who says there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation in the Ghanaian society. There should be proper education on systems and procedures, as well as a determination to take out time-wasting proceedings and restore respect of rule of law and order. The lawlessness is consuming us as a nation. And the earlier we address this conquer, the better for us. Actions and consequences must not be based on personality or affluence. There should be equality and justice at all levels to deter corruption in our society. Susan, thank you very much for that. There's Suleiman Abdurrahim, who says, "Fighting corruption is not as easy as people see it. Ghanaians should exercise patience." Okay, this one is from Fadil Rahman, who says, "I would like to say a special good morning to Honorable Alhassan Sweeney. We now know the essence of holding a ministry like the roads and highways, with respect to the works on the ground. We are seeing much more improvement as far as road infrastructure is concerned in the region and the country at large." Well, that's coming from Fadil Rahman, who sent that. Me?
Good morning, Senna, and good morning to our chair's viewers and listeners. I also want to take this opportunity to extend my condolences to the Rollins family, especially our sister Zanato, who we served in Parliament with. and her siblings, and the entirety of Ghana. I mean, Nana Konadu, those of us who were born in the 80s, 90s, or grew up in the 80s and the 90s, virtually she was a staple in our homes. Every 7 p.m. news on GBC, she was there. You know, I remember some of her clothes, her shoulder pads, and her, I don't know whether it's a bandana or some, yeah, the headgear and all that. You know, she was like a fashionista. I mean, of her time. Maybe something similar to what Samira does these days. You know, so she also made her mark in the politics of Ghana through the support to her husband in the revolution and all that. I mean, for me, where I stand politically, I see the revolution as something that was not necessary, you know, especially the 81 coup and all the things that came with it, the excesses, the issues. There's so much. I mean, whilst we also speak about her, obviously, positively, there were negatives too that we also have to raise or sometimes let the people know. It's part of our history. So maybe I'll end it there on that issue. I wish them all the best. May her soul rest in peace. And Senna, you know, this issue about oral, you know my position on oral. I've told you oral, I have no problem with oral whatsoever. I've said it time and time again because it's an information gathering process. That was what it was. They've gathered a lot of information, which is good. We are getting snippets of it, which is good. But listening to the Attorney General this week, in fact, some of the things that we are hearing, it's beyond comprehension. If they are true, it's really beyond comprehension. We're not talking about small money, though. 1.4 billion Ghana cedis. Do you know how much that is? $100 million. Is that small money? Do you know what? Ask Mr. Minister what $100 million will do in his ministry. Do you know how many roads it will fix? $100 million shared by 5 people. Senna, we're not talking about small money. People are buying homes in Ghana for $1.6 million. They have outpriced all of us sitting here. We can never buy those homes. In fact, it baffles me that there are homes in Ghana for sale at that price. When you can buy homes in New York, mansions in Texas and co for $300,000 or less. There's no way you can go to anywhere in America and pay $1.6 million cash and the FBI will not come looking for you. It's not possible. That's the reality. You might have to, you definitely have to go and take a mortgage. Even if you have the money sitting, you would have to take a mortgage and guarantee with your money. That is how societies are built. So the first thing, in fact, it's not just them. Even the real estate company that receive the money must be questioned. You see beautiful flats coming up, apartments all over the place. Go and ask the base price. The minimum is like $250,000 and they have all been bought. So people buy 10 apartments at a go and nobody questions it. Nobody asks questions. You see young men in certain vehicles. I'm not saying people are not working hard. There are people who are working hard. But some raise eyebrows, question marks, question marks, question marks. But I know that our security and intelligence agencies, they know. The BNI, they know. So sometimes it baffles me that we have to wait till after an election before their reports come out or we get to know what the work that they have done. Yoko, they know. They know. Senna, this country, I mean, this is a public platform, but we are made up of hypocrites and thieves. That's the society that we live in. Hypocrites and thieves. Hypocrites. From the churches, mosques, all of them. Ask my brother here, as a politician, when he goes to any mosque or church in Ghana, what's the first thing that they do? Even at a funeral. Recently I went to a funeral with Dr. Baumia, because we went there with Dr. Bawumia, they did a special fundraiser for a project that they're doing, and they were asking him to pay about 2 million cedis. That, oh, Dr. Bawumia, since the former vice president is here, he can help us with about 2 million cedis to finish. I was like, really? In a church, at a funeral. In fact, it was Titus Glover's brother's funeral. I sat there quietly and I watched. And that was what the guy with the mic was saying, because his expectation is that politicians have come there, and therefore we must be able to help him raise money to do their project. There's a church in my constituency that my predecessor went there, and I also went there. We went to campaign there, and they asked us for 11 air conditioners. My predecessor walked out. He didn't say anything, you know, he just laughed and left. So when I went there campaigning in 2020, the pastor brought it up again. And you know, that day, maybe it was the unction of God or the Holy Spirit that spoke through me. I told him straight, that, where do you expect me to get the money from? And then he didn't. In fact, I just went out and I said everything I wanted to say. When I left,
that question is considered an insult.
Yes, when I left, in fact, he lambasted me, and since that day, I've never been given the opportunity to go and campaign in that church again. When we write to them, they don't even respond. This is the reality. People come to us, or the political class, with all kinds of demands. I can tell you that all these corruption cases, NSB, NSA, buffer stock, it was geared towards political activity. That is it. We are living in a country where we spend no less than $200 million to elect one president. $200 million. Do you know how much it costs? Even political primaries, at the base level, basic primaries, you have to pay to serve the people. And if you have spent $500,000 equivalent in cedis, maybe 5 million cedis to win your seat, what do you expect the person to go there and do? This is the reality. The corruption is directly proportional to the cost of our political campaigns. It's as simple as that, Senna. That is the reality of the guy. That's why I said we are hypocrites and thieves. You can even bring it down to our businesses. Ask all our foreign business investors that come here. Indians, Lebanese, Chinese. What happens to them? It is, in fact, at the base level, you set up a business, and the first thing the person that you have employed wants to do is to come and steal. The first thing he wants to do is to steal. Even pure water business, when they take the trucks out, by the time the trucks get to the destination, 10 or 4 bags are falling down. Just to go home and tell the management that, oh, we lost about 15 on the way, and they sell 5 somewhere. That is it. Petroleum. I was in the petroleum industry. A whole tanker of fuel can disappear. It disappears. In Ghana. Where did it go? they would pour somewhere and sell the petrol and ditch the car in the bush. Ditch the car in the bush. And then you as a management will go and solve that problem maybe with your insurance company or whatever. This is the reality of the people of Ghana. Hypocrites and thieves. And it starts from the very, very top. It starts from the very, very, very top. Look, we are doing a project. He's in the road ministry. There's a project. There's a current project going on today. The Accra Tema motorway expansion. It cost us $400 million to expand that 18-kilometer road. Yeah? There's a road being built from Egypt to Chad in Jamina. 1,700 kilometers, and it's also costing $400 million. I'm not an engineer, but I don't know how come a 1,700 kilometer road, dual carriage road, will be almost equivalent of an 18-kilometer road. It should tell you that there are problems. And at the back of that issue is the thought process and philosophy of our political class. There's a book written by one gentleman called S.I. Lindbergh. I've referred to it so many times. It's called It Is Our Time to Chop. He came to live in Ghana between 2000 and 2004. In fact, that book was from 2003. Trying to understand the thought process of the political class in Ghana. And that was how he titled the book. It is our time to chop. something about patrimonialism in Ghana. And that is where all the people think. They treat the state's coffers as a private property. This is the country where people can describe a ministry as juicy ministry. So really, your ministry is a juicy ministry. That's what the journalists call them. Yes, juicy ministry. What is a juicy ministry? It means that when you go there, you can make money. I'm telling you. People see you and say, oh, you didn't get any ministry appointments. Next time, try and get a juicy ministry. I say, what is a juicy ministry? Explain it to me. Senna, this is the reality. These things I'm saying are known to all of us. It's not something that is coming from the moon. It's not something that we've never heard before. These things are known to us. Even in Parliament. Even in Parliament, we have issues like this. So, Senna, we have a long way to go. And look, if we don't nip it in the bud, the kind of chaos we'll see in Ghana will be worse than what happened in Madagascar recently. I'm telling you. Because people are having it up here. When you hear some of the things, you ask yourself whether it's worth it. But some of us are trying our very best to stay sane and be on the track. Trying our very best. Because it gets to a time, sometimes I tell my friends that, my political friends around me, that I'm happy I didn't even win my primaries for my second term. Maybe in the future I'll come back, because I'd gotten to a point where I was just going to tip and join the bandwagon. It says, if you can't beat them, you join them. Because without that, it's as if you cannot survive. Ask him the demands on him. The demands on him. How do the people expect him to fulfill them? His pays. Look, recently I saw on TV people buying chop boxes and mattresses and trunks. Ask yourself where the people are getting the resources from. Our parliamentary salary is known to the world. When you take the loans out of it, we are left to like 5,000 cedis at the end of the month. That is how much we take home. Yeah, in all honesty. When you take your loans out, your car loan and everything, you're left to 5,000 cedis. Yet you are buying 500 trunks for a whole community. So, really and truly, we have to go back to the drawing board and educate our people to understand that our role is not like that of a chief. A chief is completely different. We don't have that. We are not mandated. We don't have that kind of resources to even do the things that MPs do. That we do. Sometimes I even think that the MPs Common Fund should be taken away from us, because people think that it's some huge sum of money that is sitting under our bed and we have access. We don't have access to it. We just write letters to the assembly and then the assembly makes the payments. That is the reality. So we have a society that thinks that it is our time to chop. In fact, the people around you who are working with you to win power are only working with you to win power on the basis that when you get there, they will get the opportunity to also loot or put their hands in the coffers. That is the reality of our society. But all is not lost. There are other societies that have been able to surmount this. And I always use Singapore as an example. The 1950 Singapore was a corrupt Singapore. Very corrupt. It's no different from what we have. But it took a leader, one strong leader, just one strong leader, in one generation, to change the society. To change the whole society. He made it punishable. In fact, when you are caught for corruption, you exile yourself from the society. You just move out. You can't even stay. China had the same problem. In China, they will not come for just you. They will come for you and your children and your family. They will execute you. The wages of corruption should be death. Because, Senna, people have, there are children today who are struggling in the bush, in Asankregwa and all those places, just to go and harvest cocoa. They wake up at dawn, 4 a.m., walk through the night, go into the bush to go and weed their cocoa farms with snake bites, scorpion bites, blah, 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 for us to export this cocoa, raise revenue so that we can take care of ourselves and now go and take care of them. When we get government scholarships to go to school, that is the essence. We have been given that privilege to raise resources and now go and come back and take care of them. Yet, look at what happened under the Cocoa Board. Was it Cocoa Board? Yes. In the last maybe 8 years or even 20 years. In fact, it's as if the two political parties we have become two gangs of thieves. Because I bet you that when NDC leaves power in 2028, hopefully when Dr. Bahomia wins power, we will come back to this table and we'll be discussing similar things that the NDC did, or the NDC is doing now. And that is why I always have a problem. I believe that our state institutions, especially the security institutions that gather intelligence and information, they have all the information. They should make it available to the Attorney General whilst he's in government. Whilst he's in government, some of the things that are happening, they are aware. They have their men on the ground. They have their agents on the ground. There's no community in Ghana that the BNI is not there. They see it. From Galamsey to whatever. They have all the data. They know who are involved, who are sponsoring, everything. All these things that are going, accounts that are being unraveled and all that, are known. There are bigger ones that have not even come to the table, come to the fore, that we are hearing from the background. Huge. And Ghanaians are suffering. We are paying exorbitant electricity bills, exorbitant utility bills. Where people are buying homes in London and in Dubai. We are not talking about small money, my brother. There's so much unexplained wealth in this society that I think it's about time we take the bull by the horn and solve that problem. We need, and I'm hoping that His Excellency John Mahama will be able to stand his ground when it comes to his own people. Stand his ground. Because if we don't do that now, 2016, some of us had hope in Akufo-Addo that he would stand his ground. He will be a firm leader. It didn't materialize. It doesn't mean that though I'm a staunch member of the MPP, I hope that His Excellency John Mahama will be able to do otherwise. Stand his ground so that 2028 we will not come back to this same studio and table to discuss this matter again. That we come back and discuss this matter again. The big man syndrome, all that is a reflection of who we the people are. And that is the reality. We can put all the institutions you want to think that call OSP, AG's department, all of them out there. We can create them. We can create 20 institutions and still, we may still be suffering this problem if we don't go to the table and address the fundamental issues of our society. Remuneration is one of them. Remuneration is one of them. We don't remunerate our people well. I'm using Singapore as an example. A Singapore minister, the caliber of Sweeney, takes home a minimum of $800,000 to $1.2 million a year. And it will take care of all the things that Sweeney needs to do. So Sweeney will not have any reason under the sun to be corrupt, to steal. I think when we say corruption, it sounds posh. To steal. He will not have any reason. I can give you countless examples. Their own trade minister. Somebody bought him a ticket to go and watch a football match. He went to jail for 9 months. Because the government has given you everything you need to use your mind to serve the people, to solve the people's problems. That is why he's giving you all that resource. They are the highest paid public officers in the world. Their civil servants are some of the highest paid in the world. You have no reason to steal. So for them, when you are caught, it's either the Prime Minister himself will become a witness in court for you, will become a witness in court for the prosecution, or you go home and commit suicide. He'll give you two options. You go to jail, or you go home and commit suicide. It's happened in their history. They had a minister in 1985 who did that. He just had to commit suicide. So we have to make it expensive for people to even think of stealing from the state. We have to make it as expensive as possible for people not to even dream of it. That is the society that we want to create. That is the society that we need so that the people would feel part and parcel of it. When they put their shoulder to the wheel, they know that one day they would benefit from the sweat and tears that they are putting in for Ghana. Not that people, fleece the state at our expense. Literally, fleece the state at our expense. And I've talked about the relationship between our politics and corruption. I will not belabor the point, but we can learn from best practices in other places. How others have done it, how they have solved the problem, how they have been able to move their societies forward. And public education is extremely important. A country where we give NCC 2 million cedis as a budget, National Commission on Civic Education, to go and explain to people. Ghanaians don't know the reasons why we even vote. That's what some of them tell us. So he's voted for you to become wealthy or a better, successful person, and therefore your responsibility is to take care of him. That is why he thinks he's voting. Senna, so we have a long way to go in this fight, but it is not lost. That is what I want to end with. That is not lost. People, other societies have been able to solve that problem. How did they do it? How did they, that's what comparative politics is all about. How did they solve that problem? Let us learn from them and also try and solve our problems that way. But for me, anything that the state will do to recover the loot, I'll support it. Regardless of political coloration and regardless of my relationships with people. No. Anything that the state will do to recover the loot, we will support it. But it has to be done legitimately. It has to be done within the confines of the law. Give the person the opportunity to come and explain himself, and then, what do you call it? Give him the opportunity to defend himself. And if he's found guilty, so be it. But people must be punished if they are found guilty. Senna, I'll rest my case there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, Hatanote is one member of Parliament for Temba Central. Of course, we're discussing the matter of corruption. Don't forget, we are live on your TV sets. We are also live on social media, Facebook specifically. Pan-African Television is the page. We're also live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. A few comments, those of you are sending us through our WhatsApp platform. Elliot at Amasaman says the president promised an open government carrying everyone along. AG must brief us regularly. We don't want any kataso. Is it Bobua? So Elliot at Amasaman saying that. More Vision in Tamale says, good morning. If my opinion is required, I would add weight to the voice that says President Mahama should consider replacing the OSP. From a previous administration till date, I don't think the man has been able to execute a case successfully. We don't need to finish a whole ocean to be able to tell whether it's salty or not. Anyone who is either not prepared or incompetent to delivering in resetting Ghana must be fired. The NDC's ability to reset the country will determine our next victories. Vision sent that from Tamale, thank you. And this one says, Ghana is a crime scene. Give me the contract to bring back Enoforiata and I'll get you your money's worth. He didn't add his name. Good morning to you. Alhaji Said Kucho says, you think if we were in a revolution, can this Oforiata and his gangs do such? Let's be honest to ourselves. That's Kucho who sent that. There's also more from Ben in Sugakopa who says NDC must know that SP is an MPP appointee. For that matter, there's no way he will bring Ken Oforiata to this country. Ben sent that from Sugakopa. Alhaji Hamza in Pig Farm says, my brother, I am sad and my heart bleeds for this nation. And if care is not taken, corruption will finish us up in this country. I totally agree with the AG that he needs time to do a good job than to rush to court for only to see his case being thrown out of court. In my humble opinion, I am equally happy to say that the AG is trying to carry the public along in his line of duty. Democracy is all about the people, and for the people and by the people. So whoever is not happy with the AG can proceed to court, period. My brother Sana, join me to thank Honorable Sweeney for the good work he's doing for the good people of Tamale North. We are so proud of him and he should keep it up. I call on others MP to emulate his good works. Sami in Adenta says, if Ken Oforiata is left in the hands of the special prosecutor to be repatriated, Ghana will be the loser. The OSP is definitely playing along with the MPP, and it is time that the president removes him. In the first place, why did the OSP allow Oforiatta to leave the country? Because there was no haircut on the OSP, and that's why he's relaxing in bringing Ken back to Ghana to face Ghanaians on what he did to our economy. Sami sent that from Adenta. A positive change in Medina says, I like the way the MPP are making unnecessary noises all the time to seek attention from this government and Ghanaians. But President Mahama and the NDC moves in silence and are doing their work and performing wonders in just few months in government. Some more. Booksman Richard from Adafienu in Denu says, I think Aura is on course, but the most important thing is our monies must be retrieved before we jail them. With the huge salaries and allowances that these politicians and CEOs take, they are not satisfied. Why? Booksman Richard sent that. There's one, this one doesn't come with a name to Sesana. Baumia said during his time as vice president, he made a lot of MPP people rich. So if they give him the nod to become flag bearer and eventually becomes the president, they'll become more rich. Nobody is talking about how he made the people rich and where did the money come from. Thank you for that. And then there's Foster in Abeka who says, Nana Konadu, rest all in the bosom of your maker. We are reminding President Mahama on his own promise on dealing with all past scandals. You should not obey some chiefs and pastors pleading on behalf of some past chiefs appointees, else his reign will end in a debacle. Warning to the judges who will be sitting on, says, but he says we'll follow the cases because, there's so much riot at the port, especially the night shifts. So President should talk to the boss over there. Foster in Abeka sent that. Nana? Yes, let's listen to you.
Interesting.
It's so much unfortunate that we would use this whole time to discuss corruption. First of all, I would want to say good morning to my people, the United Party, and good morning to, I belong to 3 constituencies. I belong to Tamale Central, I belong to Sunyani East, and I belong to Bekwai, which is my home constituency. And my MP is seated here. He's my MP because the best school in the north, which is Tamale Secondary School, is in his is closer to his constituency. Yes, and so it's closer. It's closer. Well, you had your time, please. Thank you. And, it's interesting, and I've been quiet. In as much as I have been thinking, I have been quiet because I am a young man, and I have been listening to men and women who have been so much active in our political and governance discourse, discuss the issues of corruption for so many years. Uncle Kwesi is here. If you would ask him, every single year he has discussed corruption. And you would ask yourself, is it that we do not hear? Is it that it does not scare us? Or we are just being adamant? Has it to do with greed, selfishness, or it just has to do with us being unpatriotic? So now, if you had the opportunity to read the Great Transformational Plan, we had 6 clusters. One had to do with governance, and under the governance we had a pillar that dealt with corruption. And I will just read 2 of the points within the pillars of corruption, how we were going to deal with it if we had been given the opportunity. Number one says that demonstrate a leadership of personal integrity and political will to fight corruption and take decisive actions against politically exposed persons involved in corruption-related activities. Leadership of personal integrity. Very key and fundamental. Very key. We have everything in Ghana. We keep saying what we lack is leadership. When my leader was speaking quite recently during the unveiling of the name of our political party, he made a statement and he said that above all, if you look at what we stand for and what we are pushing, it rises on three: integrity, discipline, and ethical leadership. We will deal with these factors. But the second point I want to read here is to amend existing asset declaration rules to strengthen and to disclose. Sorry, let me retake it again. Amend existing asset declaration rules to strengthen disclosure and introduce new forms of asset tracking and recovery, including but not limited to instruments such as lifestyle audit. Very key. You know, when Sunyi was speaking, he said that what shocks him and what surprises him is that all those whose names have been mentioned are persons he is older than. Are persons he's older than. On another platform, I have stated that I am not against God's blessings. I'm a Christian, I believe in it. I go to church, I pray. I go for all 9 services. You think God will just bless that way? That I'll just wake up one day without hard work? Yes, it's there. But not when you're in public service. And your salary is around 20 to 28,000. Your allowances for the month are not up to 10,000. And you wake up and you are able to raise $1.6 million to go into chain homes to go and purchase a house. When you do the calculation for the buffer stock thing that the Attorney General put out, and you convert it depending on the rate you use. The rate I use, which is 10 point something, give me 47 million Ghana cedis within a span, let's say, the entire 80 years. Sinner, why? But I have come to agree, and persons who are involved in security and some of these criminologies would agree with me that all of these cases are organized crimes. And I stated on 2 platforms, I said that these are organized crimes that were unintelligently executed. And it hurts me, and I think the Attorney General would need to do something about it. You see, I don't know how the investigations are going, but I would want to see and hear the names of other persons involved in these crimes. I'll give you an example. That somebody approaches ADB as a bank, that I want to use a public office, state institution, the data there as guarantee, as collateral for a loan confidence, the impunity with which the person even gathered the courage to approach the bank should be dealt with. And the board, whosoever was involved, tells you that because of the ratio, the Bank of Ghana ratio they give on credit, we are not able to give you the entirety of what you are seeking. Not that it is wrong, not that it is unaccepted or unacceptable, not even considering conflict of interest, but the fact that the ratio cannot work. And somebody sat down to approve such a loan. And the person is still at ADB, working and enjoying and taking salary home. What happened to the correspondence? You're supposed to even write to the institution to find out whether or not they approve the use of the persons in on your list to apply for a loan. These are things that needed to be interrogated. At the back end, you will find a 90-year-old person still doing service, and you, the IT officer, you let it pass. And they have internal audit systems. I made this statement and somebody put on Facebook that I do not understand the work of the internal auditor. Abba. Anyone is saying I'm anti your uncle's school you can kaya you. Really? These are organized crimes, and every person on the chain should be investigated. Whatever your contribution was, because you cannot do this without others being involved. So now if you look at Article 187 of the 1992 Constitution, which establishes the office of the Auditor General, if you look at the 7B, clause 7B, it says that may disallow any item of expenditure which is contrary to the law and surcharge. So if you have expended something that is wrong or that shouldn't have been done, it means that the Auditor General has the right under this Constitution to disallow it, and the person or the officer be surcharged. So now, this law, in my view, is outmoded. You know why? Because it says it can be disallowed and surcharged. People deliberately would expend these items because the worst case scenario, it will be disallowed and surcharged. There should be inclusion of a summary dismissal and payment of interest. You cannot tell me the spending officer, the accountants and those officers do not know that they are wrong expenditures. They are aware. Recently something happened on the PAC, the Public Accounts Committee. And God bless the MPs who sat on the committee. Because if it were me, probably I would be in jail. Because how on earth do you attend the funeral, Angozi, of your staff? Donate. Instruct the officers around to pay benefits to the family and still validate payment of salary to that dead man that you attended his funeral. And the best the law can say is that you should be surcharged. And he had the nerves to even defend the matter. The law should be amended. Such a director whosoever should be fired that very day. His assets frozen. This is broad day thievery. But Senator, this is broad day thievery. Can you do this in the private sector? That you attend the funeral and still pay the dead man for what was done. And we watch this and we clap for them. We encourage corruption everywhere. Somebody becomes an MP, a minister, and in 30 seconds the person is driving in luxurious cars. No question is asked. Where is our society heading to? The former member of parliament made a statement, and I totally agree. You go into our churches, you go into our mosque, and people are healed without questioning. When was I was on my phone? I told the person, I'll mention his name. Just my old school page. We are doing some contribution. And I just sat here and did Momo, 200 Ghana cedis. Then a colleague of mine just comes on and says that, Nani Asapon, you are a deputy general secretary. You should pay $2,000. If I'm deputy general secretary, is the gold in my house? Is Bank of Ghana in my house? How do I pay to? Meanwhile, you've not paid.
There's expectation. What they perceive.
If I'm deputy general secretary, no, Sika machine V. How have you even asked me how much I earn? Whether or not it's even voluntary. And so, if you would have somebody on the other side who is not able to stand his grounds and speak his mind, the person will be forced to do beyond his capabilities. Meaning you will be stealing. You become an MP and you were living in Kaswa before you became an MP. Kaswa from Fancheme. Then just because you become an MP, now you are able to buy a house at Chado within 4 years. People now buy lands in thousands of dollars. And I think that the BOG should introduce certain new rules in dealing with money laundering internally, especially with our real estate development and asset purchasing. So I had the opportunity I have some friends in Texas. When Honorable was speaking, I was contributing to. There's an area I visited in Texas, the lakeside. Huge buildings. Beautiful buildings. $150,000, $200,000. The most expensive one I saw was $470,000. Then I told my friend that 470, we purchased land with it in Ghana. And the 470,000, I'm talking about a 5-bedroom house with something like an attached boys' quarters and a huge landscape. And they don't buy it cash hand. It is only here in Ghana that somebody is able to stand on his feet and make a transfer or a deposit of $1 million to purchase an asset, and there is no question is asked. The very fundamental question, the source of funds. Some years back, a colleague of mine applied for a UK visa and was bounced. The reason was not stated. 2 years after, when we did the analysis, then we realized that she's a public servant and she used her salaried accounts. And you know, you state how much you earn, you add your pay slip and other things. Apparently, she was doing a side business, and the revenue from the side business was being deposited into the salaried accounts. So in addition to her salary, pay slip and whatever, she should have added a statement or a letter to prove and explain the sources of the other funds. That was all. They bounced her. But what do we see in our society? We don't even explain the sources of funds. Once you become a minister, once you become, and you are my big brother, you know, Swin is my big brother. I'm there, I want everybody to know, so that when they see me, they know my brother. If Swin sees me today, and I'm driving an expensive car, he will question me. It is part of our tradition. Back home, when you drive, your brother would ask you. When you want to go and marry, you come and ask permission from your brother. And he would have to approve how much you ask. There was an issue in our home like that, because we're looking at the gentleman and the kind of umbrella he wanted to do was way too much, and they began to question where he got the money from. And that is why some of the traditions, we need to maintain them, where you would still have to give honor to your leaders. You cannot outdo your senior brother. If we maintain some of these cultures, you will not have somebody who is an appointee going to purchase a house where his president lives, rubbing shoulders with your president, rubbing shoulders with the Secretary General of the AFCFTA. That is it. He also stays at the Chains Home. That place, if you go there, men who have been doing business for the past 30 years, 40 years. You just came in 4 years, and you want to go and buy a house there. Really? There's so much lacuna in our laws. And I think they should be amended, and the Auditor General giving some more powers to take instant sanctions. And you see, the aspect where it even gives the opportunity for the person to go to court should be taken out. If you read the law further, it says as the person, if you do not agree with the decision of the Auditor General to be surcharged, you should even go to court. No, that thing should be taken out. What explanation are you going to give us? In the case of this gentleman who was paying a dead man, what explanation? Senator, what explanation is there? It's not that we do not respect human rights, but what explanation is there that there was an invitation sent to the organization? Yeah? You nominated people to attend the funeral, including yourself. You went, you donated. You came back to the office, prepared his benefits, paid to the family. You are being searched out and given summary dismissal, and you want to go to court and challenge what? That, forgive my language, to those with with disability organizations, that when you were signing it, you didn't see that when you were doing the verification of the salaries, you didn't know. So when you went to the funeral, you didn't hear the name of the person who was dead. Is that why we are today? You would find chiefs who are supposed to be authorities, very revered in our society, lead to beg and mediate for corrupt people.
Pastors, not the pastors.
You would find pastors send text messages to beg. You will find MPs go to sit on the streets irresponsibly. But where are we heading to? And so now anybody who is involved in corruption, once the person is done and they begin to, he knows what he's doing is wrong, what he does, what they do is that, as the Honorable said, they begin to finance political activities. And I'll give you a clear example. One woman to me was arrested. You saw the number of people who went out. When others were arrested, you saw the number of people who went to sit on the streets. Do you know why they refused to go out for Hanan? Because they said he chopped alone.
That's what they say with him.
That is what is there. It's on their platforms. They are discussing it. Unkundia. You understand me? So, people who worship, for lack of a better expression, corruption, make sacrifices to the gods so that on the day of judgment, they come out to support them. You would go to an area and everybody knows that Mr. A is a galamsey, destroying our land, destroying our waters. When it is time for a festival, he's the chairman of the festival committee. When it's time for annual harvest in the churches, he's the chairman of the committee. He is that person who is single-handedly building that mosque in that community. Why? And so now, just to wrap up, this thing will not end when we still have the NDC and the NPP. And everybody, you see, and some of you, the media men, should help us to carry this message to the Ghanaians. The political will to even execute dealing with issues of corruption. Yesterday, we saw the dragging of feet of some cases during the MPP time. They let go. Well, a lot of them. People are accusing the Attorney General today why he also let go some of these NDC people, these housing cases and other things. Why he let go? Of course, they said that they had been in court for 8 years, bruha, everything. Yes. Okay, but he let go. Nolly prosequa. Now that is a term they are playing with, the duos. It would only take another party, another form of leadership for us to see whether or not we'll be able to get to the levels of Singapore as the MP was saying. It took just one leader. Personal integrity. It took just one leader. Discipline. It took just one leader. Ethical leadership. And so you would line up the very active political organizations in this country, line up their leaders, and then you would judge for yourself. I have always said that for us to see a change in this country, beyond just improving the instabilities, is for us to have to taste another leadership that will be able to cut across. Sena, we need a change in this country. Because as for the NPP and the NDC, they are friends. It has been so, and it will always be so.
You are my brother.
Yes.
And I'm NDC.
And you are NDC.
We have even moved beyond friends, UP and NDC.
We are. So, Sena, where we have gotten to, we need to change. I made a statement. I said the civil society organizations that are involved in governance and corruption issues should pin these political parties to make specific declarations and demonstrate specific steps which they will take in dealing with the issues of, not just to make vague statements. If you say you deal with corruption, you clear the system, you put in... My brother, we dealt with ghost names. Didn't we deal with ghost names in this country?
We are still dealing with them. We even have softwares for them.
You understand me? But if we have specifics that would deal with individuals who are involved in this, my brother, we won't wake up to go and bring a software to deal with ghost names. If they go to NSS, and from the IT office to the audit office to those who do the verifications to the banks that do the payments, and they deal with the entire chain, people will be scared. If you look at the criminal triangle, we need to deal with the issue of desire and the opportunities. I always say the abilities are always there. For that one, they will always be there. People have the ability to steal. But when you are able to quench their desire, automatically you'll be dealing with blocking the opportunities, because those involved, they will pinpoint to you that these are the loopholes. Let's block them. How do you deal with the desire? We need to use those chains as scapegoats.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I come to Comic with Pride, just a few comments. This one from Uncle Gabi. Says, regarding the fight against corruption, I think no political case should travel across general elections. I'm sure the MPP is now loading his gun with bullets of noli prosequi. And as soon as it comes to power, the first targets will be the unfinished corruption cases involving its appointees, as the NDC did. History is likely to repeat itself, and the vicious cycle will continue at whose expense? Very sad. There's Papa Bisi who says, sad to hear how corrupt people in position of trust milk the state. All those in MPP thinking oral is just a political talk, they should take note. Very, very soon, tribunals are on their way to quick start the whole show of prosecuting those corrupt ones in MPP and within the society. So they should relax and watch the show in few months' time. The young ones are not familiar with tribunals, but we, the older ones, do. Whether it is a sham or not, we shall see. In another way, the corrupt ones in position of trust milk the state and share with their friends and cronies is via judgment debts. On that note, Iyoko must investigate various judgment debts via cancellation of government contracts in the past and pick out the corrupt ones. Papa Bisiu, send that from Spinters. Thank you very much. Just one or two more comments, then we'll move to Mr. Pratt. This one says, Senator, Honorable Sweeney's submission of the demise of arguably the best First Lady Ghana has ever had, the wife of the second best president of Ghana, the one whom God used to stop the coup d'etat in Ghana. I deduce that the new NDC still has a problem with her. They have not understood her role in the party and the tone of some of the party members that she has done her best. and having a good rest is very suspicious. Secondly, Senator, the difference I see between the MDC and MPP is that the MPP accuses you of corruption, and they prove it. They don't touch their own, but with others, they surely prove it. The current NDC talks too much, inciting the people of others of corruption to be dealt with, but ends in nothing and nothing to prove. We are tired of the NDC. That's Senator who sent that. Thank you very much for that comment. And Dennis Yakwete says he was sad watching and listening to the said rumble in the jungle expose by the Honorable Attorney General, as one wonders how those who are supposed to be our servants could loot the public purse in such monumental proportion without conscience, as the ordinary Ghanaian roams the streets of Ghana of Accra without knowing where the next meal will come from. But most importantly, even as we talk about it as a caution to members of the current NDC government, as Honorable Sweeney indicated, current appointees should learn hard lessons from this sad and despicable development, do allege at the moment and constantly pinch themselves in reminder that public office is about service and nothing else. Therefore, to quote Honorable Fifi Kwete, any government appointee in GM's government who decides to give in to the temptation of corruption, quote, will be on his or her own, end quote. If and when the time of accountability comes, what at all does one need that he would want to amass such wealth at the expense of the vulnerable only to bring shame to your family? Well, Mr. Pratt.
Well, I mean, Sweeney, first of all, I'd like to take note of the fact that some on this panel have paid glowing tribute and others have paid balanced tributes to the memory of Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings, former First Lady of the Republic of Ghana. I like to take note of the fact that our very cultural ethos dictate that we speak no evil of the departed. And I've been listening very attentively over the last couple of days. And it does appear that this cultural ethos has been taken very, very seriously. Maybe that is how it ought to be. But you see, when such prominent persons exit the scene, I think it is important that we learn important lessons from how they lived their lives and how they exited. It is good for the current generation. It is good for future generations and so on. I have no intention of departing from the ethos that I've spoken about from the very beginning. But I'd like to say something on a lighter note. Suhini, the first time that I heard about jacuzzis was in relation to Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings. It became such a big issue. I mean, today, if you speak about jacuzzis, it's nothing. But in those days, it was such a big issue. And for me, the lesson then was not about the cost of the jacuzzis. The lesson then was that even the Rawlingses were living with people who could not keep quiet about their lifestyle and the things in their innermost sanctums. Because a jacuzzi is not something you wear. You don't sit in it and drive around and so on. It's in your bathroom. So how did this become such a big national issue for debate and so on? Somebody very close to them was not happy. You understand? Yeah. Now, even the Rawlingses who still command some respect, admiration, and so on, cannot cover everything they do. And that is why people in public office ought to learn that they cannot keep every and anything secret. It's important. Okay. Now, the other distinguishing thing about Nana Kunedu Ajiman-Rawlings perhaps has to do with her political mobility. And she was very, very mobile politically. From all the stories that we have heard, she was, it is said, that she was born into a Convention People's Party home. And the expectation was that she would have become a keen advocate for the CPP and so on. She did not become. It is not her fault. You can't blame her for it and so on. But you see, even if you come to examine the 31st December movement, whose formation she has been credited with, there are many interesting things. I do know that many people who are old enough and who knew the beginnings of 31st December movement and so on, attribute the formation of the movement to a young woman who was called Cynthia Nuama, who died under very bizarre circumstances, I think in 85 or 86, Cynthia Nuama. You understand? But be that as it may, she's the one who is giving the credit. You can't take it from her. She was probably the most visible personality and so on. And that is okay, you understand? Now, again, history ought to be told in a manner which is fair and so on. And I'm a little older, and I do know the role that people like Dede, Ashikrishan, Hannah Kujo, and so on played in the mobilization of women. I do know the efforts that the Nkrumah government made in bringing women to the center of national politics and so on. To make a claim that it was Nana Kunedu Ajiman-Rawlings who for the first time brought women into the center of our politics and so on is problematic. But you can't blame anybody. You understand? You can't blame anybody. Those who were born in 1980 and so on, and who perhaps chose not to read history and only depended on propaganda on radio and television and so on, perhaps may come to that conclusion. And it is not their fault and so on. Okay. Now, there's something very interesting which has happened, and it's normal. Again, I make reference to our cultural ethos. Today, if you listen to the tributes, the outpouring of grief and so on, which party did she belong to? Is it the New Patriotic Party or the National Democratic Congress? I don't know. You understand? But today, did she really belong to the National Democratic Congress? Was her loyalty to the National Democratic Congress or to the New Patriotic Party? I won't even attempt to answer that. But you see, history has to be told in its fullness and with some respect for the truth and so on. You know, one of the things that has happened which I find most interesting is the statement which was signed by President John Dramani Mahama. And our president happens to be a very interesting fellow. You understand? Very interesting fellow. Obviously, Mr. Nice wants to be nice all the time, and it is fair, it is fine. That is how a president ought to be. So, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama on this occasion is also struggling to be nice. And it is nice for him to struggle to be nice. Okay? The question which arises is, really, In the last election, who would Nana Kunedu Ajman Rawlings have preferred to win the presidential elections? I won't answer. I won't attempt to answer that question. But it's an important question. What was her preference? Whatever you say, whatever you do, somebody who was First Lady, and sometimes I really wonder what First Lady means, you understand? Because there's a history, there's an interpretation, and so on. Sometimes I really wonder. But for whatever we say and do and so on, somebody who was referred to as First Lady, all the way from 1981 to 2000, actually.
About 2001, January.
Must have occupied an important space in our national life. And I think it's only fitting that we extend condolences to the bereaved family. May whatever she did in her life, whatever she did, for good, for bad, for worse, whatever she did, become an example from which we can learn in order to build a buoyant and prosperous nation. Now to the subject that Suhini wants us to discuss.
Senna.
Oh, Suhini.
I can understand.
Anytime you come here, you confuse me.
How many years did you host the program?
Long enough.
Anytime he comes here, he confuses me. But it's okay. That Senna wants us to discuss. The first point I'd like to make is that whether or not corruption will be punished, whether or not persons who are accused of corruption will be convicted and so on, does not depend on government. It doesn't depend on government. You understand? Because we have structured our society in such a way that when it comes to these matters, the responsibility of government is limited to prosecution. And the final arbiters in this matter are those who sit on the judicial bench. So it is not up to government to convict anybody. Understand? The Attorney General and his office may do diligent investigations. They may gather all the facts and so on. Eventually they have to place it before a judge who will make a determination as to whether the allegations are true or false. And who will also make a determination as to the kind of punishment to exact if it is proven that corruption has occurred or stealing has occurred or whatever. So we should understand that. And you see, the processes of investigating corruption, prosecuting corruption, and seeking conviction is a very complex one. It involves the police. And my goodness, I want anybody to tell me that the police can be NPP or NDC. Somebody must tell me that. But it involves the police. It involves statutory bodies. Like, is it FIC?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
It involves the National Bureau of Investigations. It involves the YOCO. It involves so many institutions which do not necessarily take their cue and direction from government, which in essence, by the Constitution, the provisions of the Constitution, are expected to act as independent organs. Okay? Now the matter is made worse by the creation of that contraption called Office of Special Prosecutor. And you know why I say that? I've taken the trouble to carefully read Article 88, clauses 1 to 6 of the Constitution. And if you read Article 88, clause 1 to 6 of the Constitution, you are left in no doubt, there's no doubt at all, that the power to prosecute is vested in only one authority, and that authority is the Attorney General. The original power to prosecute is not vested in the Office of Special Prosecutor. It is not vested in the police. It is vested in the Attorney General. Okay? So all these contraptions that we have created over the years are contraptions which in law ought to be subordinate to the Attorney General. Subordinate to the Attorney General. Okay? Is this the Constitution?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I would read the Constitution in order to make my point. You see, if you take Article 88, Section 1, it says, there shall be an Attorney General of Ghana who shall be a Minister of State and principal legal advisor to the government. Clear. 2, the Attorney General shall discharge such other duties of a legal nature as may be referred to or assigned to him by the President or imposed upon him by this Constitution or any other law. 3, the Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offenses. 3 is very clear, and I repeat it. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offenses. 4, all offenses prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with any law. You understand? What this means is that the special prosecutor cannot prosecute a case without the authorization of the Attorney General. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the institution and conduct of all civil cases on behalf of the state, and all civil proceedings against the state shall be instituted against the Attorney General as defendant. The Attorney General shall have audience in all courts in Ghana. So Article 88 is clear. Now you have to read Article 88 within the confines of interpretation of law. And you cannot do that outside the principle of the hierarchy of laws. In this country, laws include provisions of the Constitution, it includes laws made by Parliament, and it includes precedents in the court and so on. Now, if you look at the hierarchy of laws, every other law ought to be consistent with the provisions of the Constitution or it loses its validity. Okay? So, the Act which establishes the Office of Special Prosecution is an inferior law as compared to the provisions of the Constitution. And indeed, that law does not amend Article 88 or any section of Article 88. Now, everybody knew this. The parliamentarians who passed the Act, the president who signed the Act, all of us who made commentary about it knew that what was doing was a useless contraption. We knew it. What happened then? At the time, the NDC members of parliament decided not to oppose the act in order not to create the impression that they had become obstacles in the fight against corruption. So for some public relations reasons and so on, they allowed that act to be passed. NPP members of parliament knew the force of Article 88, and they knew that they were creating a Frankenstein monster only in looks and not in substance. But they too did not want to be seen to be obstructing a dream of their president. And they wanted to create the impression that they were taking the fight against corruption to another level and so on. So you need to top it all. Do you... Oh, please.
Don't worry, please continue. So that you don't break your chain of thoughts. Please continue, don't worry, it's okay.
Who would believe that Mr. Martin Amidu was appointed as the first special prosecutor by accident? Was it by accident? No. And if it was by design, what informed that design? That should tell you the whole story about the creation of the Office of Special Prosecutor. You understand what I'm saying? Now we have created that office. Whatever it is, we have created that office. But we have created that office without curing the problem that we thought existed at the time. And what was the problem? And I listened to my good friend Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo very, very clearly, former president. And he said that his objective was to ensure that prosecutions are not politically tainted. And that because as president, he is the one who appoints the Attorney General, and the Attorney General is part of his cabinet and so on. If the Attorney General were to go after criminal elements or those who had committed corruption and so on, the public perception is, maybe, that he was witch hunting. But in the final analysis, it's the same president who appoints the Attorney General who also appoints the OSP. So did we go or did we come? Doesn't make sense. We haven't cured any problem. You understand? Now, so that problem we sought to cure has not been cured at all, because OSPs are appointed also by presidents, and so we haven't cured that problem. But then in real practice, it is leading to some problems. You understand? Some problems. And one of the problems which has come up recently has to do with the case of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. And you see, I was going to say Suhini. Sana, listen very carefully. Why Mr. Ofori-Atta is not in this jurisdiction is the claim that he has prostate cancer. That's the claim. Suhini.
Who doesn't that?
I can bet my bottom cedi that today, even if you go on the bench, the judiciary, you will find judges who are working who have prostate cancer. If you go to the police service,
It's like pregnancy.
you will find high-ranking officers in the police service who are working who have prostate cancer.
Even the OSP's office.
If you go to the OSP's office, you are likely to find people there who have prostate cancer and are working. Prostate cancer is not a debilitating health condition anymore. Do you know how many people have prostate cancer? If you go to our prisons, you find people there with prostate cancer. So prostate cancer, it cannot be a sufficient excuse for not cooperating with the Office of Special Prosecutions or any other investigating authority. It cannot be a sufficient excuse. I mean, if they had said that he had something else, I don't want to mention any disease, associate anybody with any disease and so on. But if it was said that he had something else, you know, but prostate cancer, hey, my brother.
It's not like malaria.
Prostate cancer, you go to any of the hospitals, go to the urology department and see the lineup of persons.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people.
He knows that. But what does the OSP do? He writes a letter to the chief of staff. Clearly, from the interpretation of Article 88(1)-6, his office ought to be working under the direction of the AG. But he bypasses the AG and writes to the chief of staff, asking for some assistance to extradite Mr. Foriata. The chief of staff then writes to the AG. The AG then writes to the Office of Special Prosecutor and say, give me the docket you have in its current state. I have 2 investigators. Let them come to my office and let's start on the process. OSP says, I haven't finished the investigations. Alright? OSP says, we haven't finished the investigations. Meanwhile, the AG is asking for the docket as it is at the time of the request. He can't go. This is the problem we have created with this contraption, you know, that we have put together and so on. But you see, I want to make a point that I find most important. You see all the newspapers lying in front of us. And then you listen to public commentary. So, and it is obvious immediately that something is wrong. All those people who are being investigated and whose cases are being prepared for prosecution, none of them can be referred to as a thief or a corrupt person. They are not. Wontumi is not a thief. Hanan is not a thief. Mustafa Hamid is not a thief, and so on. The only authority who can declare them as thieves or corrupt persons is the judiciary. And there has been no judicial process leading to a determination that these allegations against them are true and therefore they are corrupt. You understand what I'm saying? In fact, under normal circumstances, most of our commentary would amount to contempt of court because they are highly prejudicial. You understand? Highly prejudicial. Yes, they are accused persons, allegations have been made against them and so on, but ultimate verdict lies with the courts. Now, the other thing which is important in this conversation is simply the fact that our system of justice is biased in favor of the elite, of the bourgeoisie. Our system of justice is deliberately class biased. And that is why those who end up in prison very, very quickly when they are accused are the shoemakers, the trotro drivers, those who steal buckets of cassava, and those who steal small goat and fowl and so on. They end up in prison very fast. Within 1 week, matter finished, the man is in prison. It is because of the class bias of our system. Master, if you have somebody who has sufficient resources, who is able to employ the best lawyers, who probably is a lodge member with a judge and so on, their cases are never settled in time. 10 years you are still in court. Any small thing, they make reference to Supreme Court, they are going for interpretation of the Constitution. That alone is 3 months, sometimes 1 year, and so on. So, important rich people, those, the bourgeois class and so on, you hardly win cases against them. And check the history. Master, check the history. If you are a carpenter, especially a self-employed carpenter who has not had a job for 6 months, go and steal a fowl and see. Sharp, sharp, you won't go to prison 1 time. But if you are a big-time lawyer with a few millions in your account, and you happen to be a member of a certain lodge, where a prominent chief has a post in that lodge and so on, how can you go to prison? How can you be convicted?
You go and negotiate.
Sometimes you don't even negotiate. They forgive your sins and then you go home and sleep. So this class bias in our system is something that perhaps one day with a properly oriented government and so on, we should deal with. The class bias of our judicial architecture is something that perhaps we need to deal with and so on. Now, Sohini, this campaign against corruption, Aura, featured so prominently in the NDC campaign. And I remember, Sohini, maybe, oh, sorry. Sohini.
Next time I'm here.
Look, I remember very clearly, very, very clearly, that I had occasion to speak to the NDC public, you know. And I told the NDC and its leaders that the pitch of that anti-corruption campaign was problematic. It was problematic. Why was it problematic? It was problematic because at the time, all of us had made statements suspecting that the judiciary had been packed. All the way from the High Court to the Supreme Court. You understand? Now, in a situation where the judiciary has allegedly been packed, how are you going to fulfill that promise you were making to everybody about Aura and so on? It was impossible. You understand? Now, if you add the suspicion that the judiciary had been packed to the class bias of the whole architecture, you have a double barrel problem to deal with. You understand? And so on. And then history also should have taught us important lessons. There's a history. I mean, cases which governments put before courts, and not just the NDC, NPP, and so on, lasted 10 years. We could not find a solution to the cases and so on. Now, what the NDC managed to do is what is biting the NDC today. And only 2 days ago, I spoke on this Pan-African platform, and I told stories about people that I had had conversations with, you know. I had a conversation with a lawyer and a university lecturer. And one of them actually told me that, look, John Mahama, if he comes to power for 4 years, he doesn't repair one road, repair, not construct, repair one road. If he doesn't fight the deterioration of the city, if he doesn't expand employment, if he doesn't do anything. And he just catches these NPP people who he describes as thieves and locks them up and throws the key away, he will be his hero forever. Even a lawyer told me that his only expectation is that NPP looters, that's what he said, should be arrested, prosecuted, and locked up. That's his only expectation. They don't care about the fact that over the last 3 years, we have lost 50% of our cocoa production. It doesn't matter to them. Now, these are lawyers and university lecturers. So can you imagine what party food soldiers are thinking and saying? And in fact, this university lecturer I told is not even a member of the NDC. Indeed, when I got to know him, he was an MPP loyalist. This is how they are thinking. This is where we have gotten to. And it is a dangerous place to be. Because what you are doing now is that we are baiting for blood. We have become a mob. Baiting for blood. We want to see blood. We want to see them arrested. We want to see them thrown in prison. No matter how you do it, just throw them into prison and satisfy us. Look, whether you like it or not, John Mahama assumed office. Somehow, and I don't know how it was done, the city is now exchanging at 10 cedis to $1. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. Who cares? We want them in jail. You say CD is 10 cedis to $1. You haven't jailed the people who are coming to us and saying CD is 10 cedis to $1. We don't care. He has launched the big push. You understand?
I'm not even talking about it.
The road all the way from Takoradi to Cape Coast is being dualized. He's talking about big projects. Who cares? Nobody cares. They don't mind. All they want is to see NPP leaders in jail. Look at the rate of inflation. The rate of inflation has fallen drastically. Who cares? They don't care. You are wasting their time by telling them about inflation. Catch them and put them in prison. You see, so the NDC itself has created a problem for itself. Because if the focus had not been on aura, solely on aura, or so largely on aura, by now, John Mahama's administration will be applauded all over the place. Nobody wants to applaud John Mahama's administration. There are two things that the public cares about. And indeed, if you look at opinion polls and so on, and I have quite a few interesting ones which have not been made public, very serious ones, reliable ones, it has not been made public. One day, if you insist, I'll show it to you. Why? The popularity of the government is going down. Okay? Why is it going down? Two things. Galamsey and the fight against corruption. Only two things. How would anybody get into government and make his own life and future and present and so on dependent on two items? When there's so much to be done in every sector, crucial things to be done in every sector, and so on. Okay? So, to a very large extent, this is a problem that the NDC brought upon its head. Understand? When I made the statements that I referred to at the Atamils Memorial Lecture, wow, the next day, you should see the messages I got. You should see the messages I got. And I laughed. Because I knew that it would not take too long for what I was saying then to become manifest. And it is becoming manifest now. Now, you can pave our roads with gold. and make zebra crossings with diamonds and so on. They don't care. They want them arrested. They want them jailed and so on. Now, perhaps the final point that I want to make is that all Ghanaians, including members of the New Patriotic Party, have rights which should not be trampled upon. And this is an important point. All Ghanaians. All Ghanaians. Rights which must be respected. Those against whom allegations are made must be given every opportunity to defend themselves according to law. That is the kind of society we want to build. And I've said on many occasions that some of the things that happened after the overthrow of the Nkrumah government, I don't want to see them happen again. I don't want to see a repeat of the Boy Moses episode where a human being was arrested at the airport. He was actually put in a cage, tied to a moving vehicle, and driven through the principal streets of Accra. It should never happen again in this country. It should never happen again. I don't want to see the repeat of a Kanea, which happened in the Rawlings era. It's an aberration which should never happen again. You understand? I spent a considerable amount of time in prison with soldiers, other ranks, and so on. And, Master, some of the things that happened to them, you can't say. I was in military cells with Nana Okuchwe-Bekwin, then national chairman of the PNP. You know, early in the morning, they would dig a trench and ask this old man to climb into the trench. And they would fire bullets above his head. If he had a weak heart, he would have died. I was in the same cell with Okuchwe-Bekwin when his son was brought into the cell. Can you imagine the torture? And the instruction was that father and son should never talk to each other, and they were in the same cell. And they didn't talk to each other because of fear. And so, can you imagine the torture? Lieutenant Dennis. I was in the same cell with Lieutenant Dennis. You know, at night, you hear the armored cars roll in, and Lieutenant Dennis will be put in an armored car, and he'll be gone until dawn. And by the time they bring him at dawn, there'll be sand in his nose, ears, and mouth. Sea sand. Obviously, they took him to the beach. And he can't move an arm. And he'll be lying there for dead. After 2-3 days, he starts to move his hand. Then he starts exercising until he begins to feel normal. Then they come for him again and repeat that treatment. These things should never happen again. We have to make a commitment to respecting the dignity of our citizens. We have to make a commitment to protecting the liberties of our people, their rights and so on. So yes, we have to fight corruption. Yes, those who have allegedly stolen money and so on, we should retrieve them, but not at the expense of anybody's liberty and rights. And this point must be made as strongly as possible. Okay? Look, when I gave the Mills Memorial Lectures, I predicted, and I'm sure that Sana, you were there, and Suhini, I suspect you were there. I boldly predicted at the time that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama would become the next president, that he would be elected president. Because you could feel, you knew what was happening. You looked at the prices of food. It had gone up by 500% and so on. You could tell that change was imminent and so on. Today, there are things that we can still feel and tell, and that is this poison, this poison which has been sown in the system. The government only does well if it catches NPP people and throws them in jail. Will come back to cause a lot of havoc if it's not managed well. I've spoken to many lawyers, many distinguished lawyers, senior lawyers and so on. In fact, one of them is Alhaji Inu Safuseni, who testified that Dominic Ayini is a fantastic lawyer, that he's very learned, he's a principled man and so on. So how come that public expectation is not being met? Because it simply cannot be met. You understand? So finally, let me say that as for the fight against corruption, nobody can be against it. Nobody can be against it. The struggle to retrieve whatever may have been stolen, nobody can be against it. The struggle to establish some sanity in public administration, nobody can be against it. But there are real constraints which we need to appreciate. Finito.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In fact, I've witnessed Dr. Ayine in action. I recall when he was Deputy Attorney General. So very good lawyer. Very good lawyer. Just that, like you said, if you've ever sat through court proceedings before, and you've been a journalist in a case for 3 years, and it's not ending, you'll understand what Kwame Kwesibat is saying. Yes. Just a few comments before we move on to the very next discussion. Because with the issue of corruption in Ghana, it's very dangerous, and it affects the whole fabric of our society. Everywhere you find yourself is about quick money, quest to amass wealth. No one questions the source of quick money and massive wealth. Every sector in the country is a culprit, from the church, the mosque, executive, legislature, judiciary, the media, civil society, streets, markets, schools, universities, health centers, and hospitals, among others. That's from Dr. Zuberu, who sent that. Thank you, Doc. Hadi in this is Musa Abatuafes. I'm quite impressed with the AG's encounter with the press. His detailed breakdown of the various corruption cases being pursued shows seriousness and commitment to justice. I wish the charges had been filed in court before the press briefing, because sometimes early public disclosure gives room for corporates to employ legal gymnastics to delay the process. That's an interesting one. There's no way he would have said those things he said at the press conference if he had filed a case in court. This is Hadi in Pig Farm, says, good morning. No regime since independence has stolen as much as this create Lutension and Ado Baumia appointees. This nation record should not rule Mother Ghana again. That's coming from Hadi in Pig Farm. We have to move on to our very next discussion, latest development in the MPP race. Of note is actually the meeting that President Akufo-Addo held with the aspirants. We have to be very brief on this issue. I'll start with the man from the New Patriotic Party, on this one.
Well, obviously it's my party, and yes. We are going through our internal elections to choose the next flag bearer, who hopefully will become the next president of Ghana in 2028. And I'm sure you may know, I'm a die-hard supporter of Dr. Baumia, and the idea of giving him a second chance or another chance to sell himself to the people of Ghana. I mean, he's the most marketed amongst the lot. Brian Champon I've known personally, even before Parliament, and also in Parliament. He's also very good, competent, has the capacity. Kennedy Japan, I have my question marks. I don't think that he has what it takes to run Ghana. That is my view. And I think I've made that also personally known to him. I mean, I've lived with him in Tema in the past and all that. But his thought process, the way he acts before, sometimes he even gets the full facts. Look, running a state is a complicated issue. It is not like running a business. You can run a business and let it fail. But when you are running a state, it is your life and my life. our lives, the lives of our unborn children and the future. So you need steady, very competent hands, and I know that people in the New Patriotic Party are going to take a very good decision come 31st January to give Dr. Bawumia a second chance for us to move forward. To the question you asked on the breakfast that Nado had with the aspirants, I think as a statesman, he's trying to, or as a former president on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, he's trying to ease the tension within the party, because there are obviously fan bases, blocks, support blocks, and all that coming out in support of different candidates within the race. And I think it was a good move from him to steady the ship a little, because when you see when you go on our social media platforms and you see the way our supporters or supporters of different candidates are battling each other, sometimes you wonder how they will come back together to campaign for the candidate after the primary. But the primary is just one step, or is one process towards choosing the leader and then now selling the leader to the people of Ghana. But if you damage your leader, you say all kinds of things about him, destroy his reputation, destroy his image, destroy his capacity, everything. How then do you now carry that same person to the people of Ghana and tell the people of Ghana to buy into that candidate or sell his attributes to the people? It becomes very difficult, and the breakfast was to stall all those things. For me, it's a very crucial primary that we are having on the 31st of January. We've had a very bruising election in 2024, and we have to rebuild back and resell the party to the people of Ghana. Because when you look at our statistics, you look at the researches that we have done internally and all that, it's very clear that our own people did not turn out to even vote for us, which is a very clear indication that they were not happy with our style of governance or our decisions whilst we were in power and all that. So we have an uphill task to resell the party to the people of Ghana, make it attractive to the youth, bring people in, fresh blood, new ideas, to revamp the party and get the people of Ghana to buy into our philosophy and give us the opportunity to rule again, hopefully in 2028. I sincerely believe in Dr. Bawumia's capacity and ability. He may not have met all our expectations, but I believe that he's also learned from his experiences in the last 16 to 20 years at the helm of affairs or in the forefront of the politics in Ghana and within the NPP. In fact, maybe just to digress a little, I would love to see a match between Dr. Bawumia and, let's say, somebody like Haruna Idrisu, two northern brothers from the Mole Dagwani story. Let me finish now. I said I would love to see that. Yes, I would love to see that. I would love to see that match where both of them are Muslims, where both of them are from the Mole Dagwani stock, so that we kill that whole idea of tribalism and religion within our politics, so that we would have them compete on ideas, on solutions to the people's problems. So for me, I know that hopefully 31st January, Dr. Bawumia will come out victorious, and hopefully 2028, we have at least 2 to 3 years to campaign for him, repackage him and sell him to the people of Ghana. And 2028, we would be smiling at the storm, hopefully, when we put all our shoulders to the wheel. We believe that we'll have the opportunity to make him president on 7 January 2029. That's the little I have to say about that.
That's great. In fact, one of the things that this week Dr. Bawumia got an endorsement from over 63 MPs.
Yes.
In Parliament. Well, Nana, let me come to you.
What does that mean? What does it mean?
Is that an endorsement? But they endorsed him. That's what I said.
So what does that mean?
The MPs will come in.
That's 63 votes out of how many?
Out of over 200,000.
260,000. 260,000.
Well, it is assumed that they will influence that could influence other votes.
I'm wondering.
Many of the MPs lost their last elections, so
Anyway, yes, you know. So Uncle Kwesi ended on a note of commitment, and I would want to say also that the current the ongoing cases, Uncle Kwesi, is a test of Ghana's commitment to equal justice. It is our test to equal justice, because if I was involved in any of these cases and I'm in Russia, tomorrow they'll bring me home. It's a test to equal justice. Now moving on. I do not think the NPP should ever dream of wanting to match Baumia with Haruna Idrisu. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Sometimes when you are wishing for things, you wish for good things, not an embarrassment. You want to compare somebody who has been committed to his party and to his place of origination from birth to somebody who was given an opportunity and the person was not even able to execute the opportunity given. When you take $1 from 4 cedis and you end it up at 17 Ghana cedis, and you want us to clap for you, I wonder where that is coming from. But moving on, see, as for the breakfast meeting, I termed it as a match I do about nothing. It was rather an exhibition of, quote unquote, I still have my grips on the party. It was a showmanship and nothing more. When you have led a party to a state of it declining, and you do not even put in a structure to investigate what had caused such an unprecedented and an embarrassing defeat, and you rather would commit time and resources to breakfast meetings, then you are not committed to resurrecting the party. So now, what we saw happen to NPP in 2024 election is something that no one would ever wish did occur. You understand me? We left the NPP stating certain facts and stating above all that the party had become like a handkerchief and is in the pockets of some few people. We thought after such an embarrassing defeat they would deal with the matter, but rather they put in structures and strategies to still protect what had caused their defeat. So embarrassing. And you heard it from the likes of Woon to me and what was the gentleman's name, and Kwame Bafu, that whatever structures they had put in place, whatever plan that had been triggered, was all to protect one candidate. Why should it be so? You end up putting the whole party's constitution in the gutters. just because you want to protect selfish interest. You go and match MPs to sign on to some endorsement they themselves do not buy into. And you make it public, and you think that the party would survive? Have we actually sat down to analyze the causes of the level of apathy that we saw in certain regions? And when you talk, you see, they tell you that they wanted to see certain numbers from the Alan Tremantin side, and then they would say that would give us a voice. Really? This kind of logic cannot be interpreted politically. Why do I say this? If you look at the regions that had so much apathy, these are strongholds of their party, and these are regions that even before the 2024 elections, from 2016, these were regions that were left for Alan Tremantin to work in. He went into these regions to work and got the numbers. The party they are in now is not dealing with the structures and the breakdowns. But fortunately for us, what we are happy about is that we have been able to salvage the values, the ideologies, and the spirit of the party away, leaving that empty space for them to play. The party is declining, is broken. I took a laugh when I heard Kabiru say they are taking the United Party to court. Not because we are taking the name or to challenge the use of the name, but to challenge the ideologies and the values of the party. Then I asked myself, does the Electoral Commission register values and ideologies? We have tasted the NPP. And I said on another platform, I said that, you see, if you are not able to overtake the number 2, you cannot overtake the number 1. We are in and we are pushing it. And you would see the difference. Being in the center as a centric party is so much interesting. Why? Because you see, you have the opportunity to push in practical solutions. If you look at the lineup of even our leadership as United Party, it tells you that it will be difficult for any political party now, whether in government or have been in government before, to challenge the United Party when it comes to ethical leadership, when it comes to discipline, and when it comes to the profession and the proposals of practical solutions to dealing with the economic situations of our country. And Senna, as for the NPP, I would advise them that whoever advised them to do a top-bottom approach and to leave their walls still cracked and the foundations broken has done them a disservice. And until they fix those issues, probably a party I do not want to mention their name would even be better than they would be after 2028.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator. Alhaji.
Yeah, Sarah, we're almost out of time. The MPP is a very interesting place to watch now. And if we had time, we would have perhaps shared some of the very fascinating observations that some of us are making. I'll begin, however, with the point you made when you were introducing Nana regarding the number of MPs that have so far declared support. I am aware that for the cameras, some of them have declared support for Bawumia, but are also appropriately hedging in other camps. And I am aware because I'm in parliament with many of them. And we have conversations that are side conversations. And so many of the MPs are hedging. They're hedging their bets. And that should give the camp of Dr. Bawumia something to worry about, because you may not be able to, be very certain about which of the MPs are absolutely for you and those who are not.
Fear delegates.
Fear delegates, thank you. And so you can go to bed thinking that, okay, these 63 constituencies, the MPs there are working for us because they have declared. And when the results come, that's just what I will say on that. Then again, the NPP's constitution is not unlike the NDC's constitution. For the NPP's constitution, the flag bearer needs to garner 50 plus 1 votes. Now these MPs who are declaring support, have you checked how they won their primaries in their various constituencies? Did they win by landslide in their internal primaries and therefore have total control of their constituencies and can assure you of all the votes of the delegates in that constituency? Think about that. So if you have members of parliament who in their primaries won by simple majority and perhaps got only about 50 or 40% of delegates votes, and by that they became candidates for the party and therefore won to become members of parliament, you may be laughing at the wrong side of your mouth, because such an MP may have control over only about 43 or 46% of delegates in that constituency. And if the other flag bearer, aspirants teams do their homework well, they will harvest that 50-something%. And cumulatively, even if you have 63 and then cumulatively they work on the other delegates, you may not be able to cross the 50 plus 1. So the question Angweze asked you was right. What does it mean that 63 MPs have declared support for you? What are they really coming with?
They'll come with their base.
What is their base? Have you assessed their base? That's the question I'm asking. Have you assessed what their base is? Because an MP in the primaries can actually win the primaries, but have minority delegate support.
Yes.
Because if you have like 6-7 people contesting, and all of them get votes, and then the one who wins by simple majority garners even 39% of the votes, and that happens to be the majority of votes, he wins. So what is their base? Have you assessed really their base? So it is not enough to just say 63 have declared. I mean, in Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's own constituency, Wali Wali, if the MP for Wali Wali declares for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, does it mean that he can go to sleep? He knows what happened in the primaries there. I'm talking about Dr. Kabiru.
He doesn't even agree.
And how many votes did he use to win that primaries? And how has he since been able to bring all the delegates under his control? It's maybe worse than it was at the time. So what does it mean? It's an important question when they say 63, MPs have declared support.
The Reverend team has said that he is for Bawumia, but he cannot tell whether his people.
I have told you that, you see, some of them are hedging very intelligently. I won't go much into that one because you may expose some things that you have been privileged to come across. But interesting things are happening in the MPP. Then the second issue is the breakfast meeting that the former president had with the flag bearer aspirants. Very, very interesting. You see, politics, like life, can sometimes be a very, very selfish enterprise. All I saw when I watched excerpts of that breakfast meeting and read the communication that came from the former president's office after the breakfast meeting was a man in search of redemption of his image. That's all I saw. The man being the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo. I mean, if you can read through the lines and watch the optics and the nuances, you will know that this had very little to do with the NPP. It had very little to do with the contest. It was about a man who is desperately in search of a redemption of his image. Clearly, he has seen that his legacy is the reason why the party is in the shape that it is in. And so, no one is even that proud to associate with that legacy or himself. Not even his vice president is proud to associate with that legacy. And so he feels ostracized. He feels ostracized. He feels left out. And so some of his sympathizers and his team members thought that it was an opportunity to create a platform that will make him still look relevant. That's all I saw.
Please, you have to wrap up on that note because the time.
I can see me is so excited that you are telling me to wrap up.
Correct.
Because it's interesting. But like I said, there are very interesting developments in the NPP, but we don't have time to exhaust all of that. But I just wish them well. I find it interesting that almost every party that loses elections since 1990, since 2000, because that's when the NDC also lost, have always said that our people didn't come out to vote. I wonder who our people are.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This week I found out that Mr. Pratt has been, at least knows what an Nanado breakfast looks like. Over to you.
Oh, the breakfast meeting was very, very good. Excellent. I mean, you could tell from the smiles on the faces of the people who were there. Really? And I was wondering just what they were fed. I've just been wondering, what did they eat? Why were they so happy? So the cook must have been exceptional. And the ingredients must have been very, very fresh, you know. The other thing I noticed at this breakfast meeting, which was very interesting, was that some had overflowing plates, and some had plates which were just loaded to the brim. And I saw Kennedy Akumpreku's plate; it wasn't full at all. And I was wondering why. Did he eat before coming there, or what? You know. So it was an exciting breakfast, and I think we have to, you know, recognize that. As for the claims, last week or this week, I saw 3 different polls. Charlie, pointing in different directions. Who are they deceiving? These fools who didn't help them in the last election, it's the same thing they are all doing. Some say Baumia will get 72%. The other one said, oh, Kennedy Japan had taken the lead and Baumia is trailing. And then there's another one who says that, oh, Brian Achampong is in the commanding lead and so on. But in all of this, there were 2 people who no poll said they were going to win. And I was reading the poll results and I said, what happened? Is it an indication of the depth of their pockets or what? I don't know. These pollsters are beginning to sound and look like the bishops and archbishops. Finish.
Thank you. Who are those 2 people?
There are 5.
You don't know that.
So there are 2 people who the post never
He's mentioned 3, and they are 5.
Well, thank you very much. Before we go, just okay. So this is briefly to El Emerald Ariela Nyamie Mako Adao. You were duly named today. Welcome to the world. I hope the world is kind to you. El Emerald Ariela Nyamie Mako Adao. That's a long name. Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Samuel and Lizzie Adao. And of course, a happy birthday to a few people. Prince Onassis Atipo. Also to Erica Jekum. I spent time with him in the Gold Newsroom. And Priscilla Hemans, who is now Mrs. Mrs. Osu Seche. And of course, a happy birthday to Nafisa Freeman, who I know is watching us currently. And to my good friend, Cynthia Beckley. Congratulations to a happy birthday to all of you. And of course, I extend my condolences to Mr. David Kupia, who is burying his mom, Madame Philomena Segbefia Kupia today. Madame Philomena Segbefia Kupia, so condolences to you. We'll see you same time next week with another edition of the Mother World Talk Shows. Alhaji and Alhaji. Big thank you to Comrade Pratt as usual, General Secretary Socialist Movement of Ghana. And of course, when Alassane Suhini is here,
It confuses me.
we have 2 hosts.
It confuses me all the time.
We have 2
I think
hosts.
what we need to do is when it gets to your turn, you should change.
But when is Nancy coming on the show?
Nancy is celebrating her school.
Only at 75.
We've been inviting Nancy for 2 years. She has refused to come. Why?
That I can tell. And of course, Honorable Hassan Sumini is Member of Parliament for Tamalino, Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways. He must deliver the roads in his constituency. People have been saying that over and over again, talking about expectations. Who have very high expectations in his constituency. And of course, a big thank you, as always, to Nino and Hansen, Member of Parliament for Tema Central. And then it was nice to host Nana Iyao Sapong for the very first time. He's an interim deputy general secretary of the United Party, a political assistant.
United Party Plus.
Alan.
Oh,
No, it's United Party. Don't, there is UP plus. Yes, but it's United Party.
I'm Sarah Numbo from the team here at Pan African TV, Radio Gold, and all the other affiliate stations.
Why the UP
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
But we've evolved from the